Jenny Eggers.
So I have an identical twin. Her name is Michelle, and we grew up in the suburbs of San Francisco. We were really good kids, and we were incredibly close. And like all twins, we like to think that we were different. Like she did ballet, and I did sports. But even in high school, we went to a Catholic school, so we had to wear the same, plaid skirt and polo shirts. And as much as we wished that we were different, we actually weren't. And then it came time to choose a college. And we realized that we wanted very different things. She wanted to go to a small Catholic school, and so she chose Santa Clara, which was about an hour away from home. And I wanted a big D1 sports school with a football team, and so I chose University of Oregon. Now at the time, this was before the internet, and so colleges used to assign you a roommate, and then that roommate would get your address, and you'd get a letter in the mail, and they'd introduce themselves. And so my sister and I both got letters from our would-be new roommates. And Michelle got one from her roommate, Sarah. And Sarah said that she was from Chicago, and she was gonna be a dance minor, just like my sister. And I got a letter from a girl named Alexis. Now, I had the choice whether to be in the sports dorm or in the honors college dorm, and so I chose the honors college dorm. And so I imagined Alexis as this very bookish vegan who was going to teach me worldly things about tofu and had a butterfly tattoo. And her letters sort of confirmed that for me. She was really sweet, and she signed her name Alexis with a heart over the I, which I took to me to be a really good thing. But when I got the letter, it made me wonder, who am I going to be in college? And I think this happens for a lot of people. Maybe you did this too. You start to think, well, maybe my freshman year I could, maybe start using a nickname, or maybe I'll started wearing a new style. And for me, I realized it wasn't only a fresh start, but it was going to be my first time in my life that I didn't have the comparison of having a twin. And so I knew that I wanted to do something very big and very different. And I knew what I needed to do. I needed to get dookie braids. Now, you'd think that you don't know what dookie braids are, but you do. It was the 90s, and many of my heroes had them. Like Tracy Chapman, Milli Vanilli, Flojo the Sprinter, Janet Jackson from Poetic Justice. They all had dookie braids. Dookie braids are not like when you go to the Caribbean as a tourist on spring break and go to the beach and get your hair braided with beads. It's not that. Now, I should mention that in high school, I was white. When I told my parents and my sister my plan to get dookie braids, I can't say that they had the same exact vision that I did, but they were supportive, and they said I should do it. And so what I did is I went to the kitchen, and I got out the big phone book, and the only thing I could think to do was to look for salons in downtown Oakland. And so I found salons like Diva Styles and Butte African Hair Braids and Sahara, but it was spelled Sahara. And I would call them one by one, and I would just very innocently say, "Hi, I'm white. Would you braid my hair?" And many of them hung up on me. I think some of them thought I was prank calling them. Some of them just said no. And then I reached this one, Annie's Braids, and the receptionist said, "Well, actually, I don't know. No one's ever asked that before." And so she said, "Hang on a second." So she went away, and she came back, and she said, "Yeah, we think we can do that." So I said, "Great." And so I made an appointment for 10 a.m. that Saturday, and they had told me it was going to take about 6 hours and cost about $250, which was a lot of money at the time and all of my summer babysitting money. And so I drove myself the 30 minutes to downtown Oakland, and I walked into Annie's Braids, and it was already buzzing in the morning. It was clearly many women's weekend ritual to be there, and they were all chatting and everything. And I walk in, and it was just silent, and all heads turned to me, even the ones in the hairdryer, just all looked over at the same time. And they said, "Oh, you must be Jennifer." And so I sit down, and the first thing they do is they bring me this big piece of cardboard, and it has all of this synthetic hair on it. And I hadn't really thought everything all the way through, because all the colors they had were just different shades of black. And so I chose the lightest shade of black, and she started braiding my hair. And so what they do is they take a strand of hair, I mean really no more than this much at a time, and they tie the synthetic hair, and then they braid it all the way down, and then they take a lighter and they burn the end of the hair. And it's kind of plasticky, and so it melts and it stays. And so they proceeded to do that for my entire head of hair. Now, throughout the day, I should mention there was also a kitchen in the back of the salon where they were simmering rice and beans. And I was there for hours and hours, and so they came out and brought me a couple servings of rice and beans and kept me fed while they were doing this. And when it was all done, you know, she turned me towards the mirror, and I looked at myself, and I looked like Cleopatra on a bad hair day. I looked like I was wearing someone else's head, and I loved it. I thought it was like the most awesome thing I had ever seen. And I went racing home, and my parents and sister were a little like wide-eyed, but they were like, yeah, that works on you, that's good. And my grandpa told me I looked like Bo Derek, and I looked nothing like Bo Derek. And then it was time to go to school. And so first we drove my sister to school, and you know, we took her to Santa Clara, and we walked her into the dorm, and her roommate Sarah was there. And Sarah was petite, and she was blonde, and she was very sweet. And you know, we helped my sister unpack that day, and it was time to leave. And it was the hardest goodbye I had ever had to say, and still have had to say. We had been together for 18 years and 9 months, and it was the first time we were going to be apart. And when my parents and I drove up to Oregon, it was a long 10-hour drive. We were very quiet. My parents were actually losing both of us at once at the same time because there was just the two of us. And I just remember sort of like leaning against the car window, looking out, and sometimes seeing the reflection of my braids and loving them all over again. And when we got out to Oregon, the closer we got, I was getting more and more excited. And we got out and we walked across the quad towards the honors dorm, and it was really green, and the sun was shining. And we got up to the dorm, and we can see that the room was cracked open where my dorm was, and so we knew Alexis was in there. And so we went in and we opened the door, and there's Alexis. And she's black, and our parents are black, and I'm white. My parents are white, and we have the same exact braids. And we all stood there just looking at each other for what felt like eternity. And all I could think was, it was like the first time I realized that what I had done might be offensive. And I was thinking, oh my God, she's gonna think I'm making fun of her. My parents must be so embarrassed. I feel terrible. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna get these off my head? What am I gonna do? And all of a sudden, Alexis just broke into this huge smile, and she went, yes! She came running over and gave me a big hug, and I swear to God, we were the only 2 people on campus out of 17,000 that had that hair. And the really cool thing about it was that Alexis had all these things that I didn't know about. She had like shampoos and combs and shower caps, and so we spent much of the first semester, doing her hair together. And she would teach me all these ways to keep it looking good. And so, that's really how I took my first big step into being an independent person, away from my identical twin, and ending up with another one.
You have to corner Jenny at the bar and ask to see the picture of her with the dookie braids. It's pretty awesome. Let's keep the applause going for Alex Fotopoulos.
So I was just recently at my friend Jill's 50th birthday party, and it's all the way out in western New Jersey. Now I've known Jill since I was in high school, and I've known her brother since I was on the football team. And it was going to be a reunion of sorts, so we were pretty excited to be going out there. And the first thing she says to me is that I have a little bit of a dilemma. We have some problems here because the family is really divided. They're trying to figure out whether her nephew, Emmett, is gay. And I'm saying, well, what's the big deal? It's 2014. I mean, come on, what is that a big issue now? She's like, well, I think he is, and my mother and my brother are all in denial, so try to befriend him and try to figure it all out. So that just doesn't sit right with me. I mean, I am a lawyer, so I love uncovering scandals, but I just said, that just doesn't sound right. You know, it's bullying. And everyone knows you shouldn't bully. When I was growing up, bullying was okay. I mean, bullying happened all the time. But it just wasn't right. And, you know, I start thinking about it, and I forget about it, and the day of the party comes. I don't have a present. I'm looking around, trying to figure out what the heck am I going to bring to this party. Now, in college, I have a buddy and I who used to try to create a dead cat calendar because we both hated cats. So since then, that same friend is always sending me cat puzzles, constantly sending me cat puzzles in the mail for the holidays, for my birthday. So I'm looking around, I got a cat puzzle inside, I grab the cat puzzle. Jill loves cats, so I said, let me give Jill a cat, and a cat puzzle, I should say. Wrap it up, I'm all out of wrapping paper. No wrapping paper anywhere to be found. I grab a sheet of tin foil, wrap it up in tin foil, run out the door. I go pick up my friend Lisa to bring her to the party. Now Lisa used to be a cheerleader with Jill, so she knows Jill from way, way back. We're headed to the party. She sees my wrapping with tin foil, and she's like, what the hell is that? You know, something's never changed. And I said, well, you know, we're supposed to try to figure out whether Emmett is gay or not. So I justify my tin foil wrapping by saying, let's see if he says the wrapping's fabulous. Let's see if he thinks the wrapping is really bad. Like, what's his reaction to the wrapping? So I kind of judge it that way. She says, well, I remember Emmett because when I was a kid, not when she was a kid, when Emmett was a little kid, she would go visit Emmett. And she would always make this elephant face with putting her hand on her face and then doing the big trunk and going around doing the big trunk. And he would run and hide and he'd shriek and freak out. So I look at her and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, I mean, if he was straight, he'd come out and shoot the elephant. If he was gay, he would embrace it like it's a big phallic symbol. I'm like, what is that? Everyone tries to be a closet psychologist and try to figure things out. I mean, if it's a giant phallic symbol, he should have come out and run it and hugged it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I'm gay, and I know that I run from a giant penis that was coming at me. So just because I'm gay doesn't mean I can detect other gays. And she's like, well, you should try to figure out. So I don't see, I wasn't blessed with that power to detect other gay kids. So, and plus he's a kid. Who would ever want to try to figure that out about a kid? I know when I was a kid growing up, my parents went out to California to see my aunt. And my aunt lived in Santa Barbara, and she was very good friends with the original Marlboro Man. So we would go to his house, and he lived there with his lover, he was gay. And it freaked me out. I was like, this guy has super X-ray powers. He's gonna discover me. He's gonna sniff me out. So I just stayed as far away from him as possible. And so I'm not gonna figure it out. I said, I know I didn't want anyone breaking into my closet and trying to figure out what I was, so I'm not gonna do it to this kid. So we get to the party, and I hand over my present. He's the one standing guard at the presents to see everything. And he takes my present, looks at the foil, doesn't say a word. I said, okay. Lisa brought a Yankee candle. She puts the candle on the table. We also bought champagne too, because I don't want anyone thinking that we're really cheap and we just showed up with 2 shitty gifts. And I'm looking at Emmett, and all I could think about as I look at him is Howard Stern. He looks like a young Richard Simmons. And if any of you remember, when Howard Stern would have Richard Simmons on his show, he would play this soundbite of Ethel Merman saying, "Hello, Frisco!" And that's all I could think about. I was like, oh, you know, I said, so Lisa looks at me and says, well, what do you think? And I just looked at her, I said, you know, I can't tell. I have no idea what the story is with him. So we continued going around the party. I have a couple of drinks, and I just said, you know what, let me go up and talk to Emmett. And I just said, Emmett, dude, what's the deal with the makeup? Because as I didn't tell you, he had this huge star on his face that was painted in purples and greens, and I I was like, what the hell's with all the makeup? He's like, well, I am in rehearsal hell in high school because I am trying out for Starlight Express. So I said, okay, well, you know, that doesn't mean you're gay, but rehearsal was 3 hours ago and you had to drive 2 hours into New Jersey and you still have the makeup on your face. So he's like, well, then he goes and washes it off. So I said, okay, he washed it off after I said to him, you know, that's not, you know, I'm a lawyer, you're innocent until proven guilty. It comes time for the presents. He's all excited about the presents. Again, who's not excited about presents? That doesn't mean you're gay because you're excited about presents. He starts going through the thing. He pulls my present out. And he shows the whole room. Look, it's wrapped in tin foil. Kind of catty. I said, you know what? That could be a gay sign. Because, you know, he's calling me out. That's you know, he's kind of a bitch now. You know, everyone starts, but they take my present and put it on the side. They start unwrapping. She got like an iPad. She's getting Chanel bags, Coach wallets, really fancy stuff. Then he says, we forgot about the tinfoil one. Gives her the gift. She opens it. It's a puzzle of 2 cats. And his first reaction is, oh my God, it's 2 pussies in a box. Everyone starts laughing, and then he looks at his dad and says, I'd take the 2 pussies and a box. Ho, 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 ho. And I'm like, oh, you know, maybe. What's that mean? Huh? Trying to be real macho and tough with his dad. So I said, I let that go. We start going on, some more presents are being opened. Now comes time for my friend's Yankee Candle. And passing the candle around and opens it. Now, who doesn't like Yankee Candles? Well, most straight guys don't like Yankee Candles. I mean, when you go to Bed Bath & Beyond, all you see are gays and chicks in the corner smelling all the tops. So the candle opens, and he looks at it, and he grabs the candle. The whole room is looking at him, puts his head in, starts smelling, bumps his nose on the wick, his head kicks back, and he just goes, ah! I didn't have to say a word. I looked at my friend, and I just looked at her and I said, hello, Frisco!
I love that story because he only recently added the Marlboro Man thing. Like that just is like, okay, like please take the class again so we can just hear a story about the gay Marlboro Man. Like I had no idea. I lived in New York now for like 14 years, and I always had I'm from Texas where I had really great gaydar, and then here it's just shop. Like gaydar in New York, you just can't tell, and I think, oh, it's gone, and then I go back to Texas, and I'm like, gay, bisexual, gay by 24, bottom, golden shit, like I can, it's just culturally so different depending on where you are. When I was little, when I was a little kid, I was called a faggot in like 7th grade. And I was a pretty like fun kid. I wore a lot of like hypercolor shirts, and I had sun in my bangs over the summer, and it would be gorgeous by the time school started. And I remember in 7th grade, this kid called me a faggot, and it was like, I don't want anyone to detect me. So in all my 8th grade pictures, when you look at me, I'm in the same outfit over and over. I'm in like khakis, and like a different shade of blue button-down shirt, and like my hair's gelled inside. I look like a chubby little lesbian Blockbuster Video employee. Like in every photo, just like, normal. Give a big round of applause for our next storyteller coming to the stage, Emily Doherty.
So the summer I was 23, I had my first real job, and so I was celebrating with my first real vacation, which resulted in a 5-hour layover in Miami on each leg of the trip. And the Yelp reviews of the Miami airport are terrible, so I decided to hop in a cab to South Beach to entertain myself. I get to the beach around sunrise, and I was living in San Francisco. I was wearing like my Patagonia fleece, and everyone was drunk around me. So I hightailed it to the beach to kind of just walk around and see the sunrise. And I've only just started walking on the beach when a runner runs right up to me and starts talking to me. And his name is Steve. And Steve was black with dreadlocks, a little bit taller than me, a little bit older than me, probably late 20s. Steve was very friendly. We walked for a couple minutes, He asked me for my phone number, and I gave it to him. I go on my vacation, but then I have, again, a layover in Miami. So Steve picks me up at the airport, and we go to get Cuban food. And I am so relaxed at this point, because I've been on the Cayman Islands, and Steve is very relaxed all the time. So Steve and I get our Cuban food, and we just like have this like very sensual conversation. Like a lot of like, I would tell him on my vacation, be like, yeah, I hear that, I hear that. We were just like very in sync, Steve and I. And so Steve drops me off at the airport, and I'm like, Steve, visit me in San Francisco. Because I say that to everyone, and no one ever visits me in San Francisco. And Steve texts me a few days later with a new phone number, but he says he wants to visit San Francisco. And so we talk on the phone, he books his flight in for about a month's time, and immediately after this happens, I start freaking out because I've been watching a lot of Law & Order SVU, and I know this is like how bad things happen to women who are 23 and invite strangers to like come visit them in their studio apartment. And so I'm thinking, I'm like doing research on the internet, I look up mace, and I'm thinking about getting mace, but I get concerned that I will, in like the heat of the moment, when I'm fighting off Steve, I'll like mace myself in the face. So I nixed that plan, and then I'm like, I should get my kitchen knife and keep it under my mattress. But I decided that's a bad idea, because Steve is probably stronger than me and would like take the knife and like knife me. And then I think about uninviting Steve, but I quickly nixed that plan because that would not be polite. So Steve visits me, and so it's the big weekend that he's coming, and he texts me like the day before with a new phone number, so he's changed again, so I reprogrammed my phone, and Steve picks me up at work, and he is in a red sports car. That's his rental car for the weekend. And I see him and I hug him. And a small part of me at this point like thought he might be like the one. Like, this is how I'm gonna meet my future husband. Like, fun story, like on the beach in Miami. And we get in the car, and by the time we get back to my apartment, I know Steve is not the one. Because Vacation Emily was very in sync with Steve. But now Steve is exactly the same, and I am in work, regular San Francisco Emily mode. So he's still like, yeah. And I'm like, yes. Different wavelengths. So I take Steve to a Moroccan restaurant. We have a good time there. I asked Steve what he does for a living, and he says he works in marketing. And I worked in marketing at a big company, and so I asked him, like, what do you do? Are you an account manager, an account executive, a media planner? And Steve says he does a little bit of everything. And I asked him what the name of his company is, and he says the name of his company is Miami Marketing. And I asked Steve what's the name of one of his clients, and he didn't have an answer. He didn't want to tell me. And after I pressed him a couple times, he told me that one of his clients was Heineken. So Steve and I head back to my apartment, and we get to my studio, and I have my air mattress blown up. And so Steve and I very chastely take take turns in the bathroom to change our clothes. And then Steve goes to bed on the air mattress, which was seemed kind of squeaky and uncomfortable. He was tossing and turning a good bit. And I was really thankful that Steve had not tried to make a move or made me uncomfortable in any way. So day two, I take Steve to a park, and we're walking around, we sit on a bench, and at some point Steve takes a phone call, and so he gets up and he wanders probably 15 feet away, but I can still kind of hear him, and he does not seem to be speaking English. He has a pretty thick accent, he's from Barbados, but whoever he was talking to, the lingo got way thicker. He was using words that I had not heard before. And when Steve comes back, I ask him about this, but he